What's going on, everyone? My name is Christian, and I'm one of the 360 techs here at Opus IBS. Today, we're going to be covering a Hyundai and Kia technical service information webinar. Um, Before we get started, I wanted to cover a couple quick things. During the presentation, you'll see some QR codes on each of the slides. If you scan those with your cell phone, it'll take you to our website where you can find out more about our new Drive Pro 2, various other things that we offer, and you can also see our next available webinar, which is going to be on November 18th. For Toyota diagnostics with ADAS and ROB codes with Mr. Marlon Hunter. And it will be a good webinar because it shows how to diagnose these vehicles using the Drive Pro 2. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Couple things we're going to be going over on this webinar is how to access the technical service information for both Hyundai and Kia vehicles. We're going to be going over how to navigate through the websites, covering over TSBs and campaigns, using the wiring diagrams and the service information, and also using the J2534 software that both Hyundai and Kia provides, along with the reprogramming software, and we're going to dive into variant coding as well. So the website for Hyundai and Kia, or excuse me, for Hyundai is going to be hyundaitechinfo.com. When you go to this website, it will pull up the main screen, which I will show you in the next slide. But this slide, for the most part, goes over what their subscription services cost. So, for example, like a year of factory information for them, and this is the same information that you get at a dealer level. Is $600 for the year, so relatively inexpensive. The J25 ECU software reflash, which will allow you to do reflash and reprogramming for ECM and TCMs from vehicles 2004 and later, along with the J2534 diagnostic software, which is their software that they provide to the independent user. It is a little different than the GDS software, which is the dealer level software. Another thing to note that this software is only good for 2018 and later model vehicles, along with key and PIN codes for smart key vehicles, and then for independent repair facility stuff, that's really only applicable for you if you are in the state of Massachusetts. For the Kia service information, the website is a little different. It is www.kiatechinfo.com, or excuse me, kiatechinfo.snapon.com. Their service pricing is a little bit different. It is a little bit more expensive. Personally, the service website is a little bit better, in my opinion. It's set up a little bit better. And the J2534 tool is a little bit more complete. There are some features that in the Hyundai J2534 tool are a little clunky or don't work, but the Kia J2534 tool does seem to work better and a little bit smoother in my personal experience. So when you go to hyundaitechinfo.com, this will be the main screen you will see. So the first snippet I showed you with the pricing will be under the subscription information link, and then you can also do your registration here. But if you have credentials already, you can just punch that in, and then it will pull you to this screen. This is going to be the main Hyundai Tech Info service page here. From here, you can access pretty much anything. If you click on shop right up here at the top, it will bring in a window where you can copy and paste the VIN number on here. This VIN number will decode the chassis, the year, make, and model, what type of vehicle. For example, this is a plug-in hybrid electric, the engine. From here, you can go over the top menus. New items will bring you back to the main page. That'll show you anything that's new coming out for Hyundai on the current model year 2025 intro stuff, 2026 intro stuff. Shop is going to be your shop manual, so information on how to access, like you're looking to pull a dash apart, or trims, that kind of stuff. That's where you'll go for that. ETM is the electrical troubleshooting manual. This is just what they consider wiring diagrams. So that you would go click on that link for that. DTC would be your diagnostic trouble codes. TSBs would be your technical service bulletins. Campaign is going to be campaign recall service actions, so things that have to be performed at a dealer. Vehicle info will bring up some information for variant coding, which we'll get into a little later. Replace tab would give you information regarding, say you're trying to like component replacement, looking up for like an alternator or things like that. You're looking for the R&R procedures for that. That'll give you some info for that. So same thing with component. Component will actually give you a little bit of better description and operation of how to diagnose something per se. So like these Hyundais that have like an alternator management system, if you go into component and type in alternator, it will bring up a general description and operation of how that alternator charging system works. Overhaul is a little bit more detail for engine related stuff. OBD2's information on setting monitors. OM is going to be owner's manual. So this will be digital owner's manuals for these vehicles. So a lot of times you'll get information on how something works on a car. Go to, and the owner's manual of the vehicle is not in the car. This is really good for finding that, because this has the published owner's manuals for the most part every Hyundai and Kia. Granted, for the Kia, we need to be on the Kia site, but I think you guys understand. So let's go down here. So the detail search is a really good feature. You can find this at this one up here at the top, right next to the home. So for detail search, if you type in the word injector, it will literally pull the word injector and categorize it in which bracket it found it. So it found the word injector on these TSBs on a campaign. TechNet is publications for like like a magazine that Hyundai released for a little while. They don't really do it anymore, but it was like a magazine that went out with like a monthly magazine that went out with monthly service information for dealer technicians. There's some good stuff in some of this stuff, but it's not really anything that they seem to have continued. So that's why there's really only like 20 hits on that. Same thing with here, your shop, and then your ETM. So those are things that, like this screen here, if you wanted to find anything, you can type in a trouble code, a keyword, and a connector number, anything like that, and it will pull it up and do all the digging for you. That way you don't have to go through each sub menu and try and find it that way. So some of the acronyms that I was covering, this is a just another snippet of them. OM again is owner's manual. DTC diagnostic trouble code. Campaign is your like a recall. So this is like a service action again that has to be carried out at a dealer. TSB is a technical service bulletin, or just known issues that the manufacturer's published. And then your ETM is electrical troubleshooting manual, so your wiring diagrams. On the Kia website, so when you log into kiatechinfo.snapon.com, it'll pull you to this. This is their home screen. Their website is set up a little differently. You have your login, and then they have you. They make sure that you're human, and you have to clear the CAPTCHA here to get to the next page. On the next page, it publishes your service information and how you can your pricing and everything that we covered in the previous screen. To get to the actual Kia technical information, you have to click on the highlighted link, the Kia Global Information System. Once you click on that, then it pulls you to this screen. This screen is very similarly laid out to the Hyundai site. I prefer this website a little bit better, just because this already pulls you the detail search function, so you don't have to go looking for it. All you need to do is pretty much put in your VIN number, and from there you are ready to go for searching for information at that point. Same thing here too. You have your service information, body dimensions if you were doing body repair, TSBs, campaigns, service actions, variant codes, things of that sort you can find here as well. This is an example of the utilization for detail search. On this particular chassis, on the XM Kia Sorento, both the 3.5 and the 2.4, there were issues with the variable charge motion actuator, which is the lower intake runner. So if you just typed in VCM, it pulls up both TSBs for both vehicles. This is a snippet here of the Kia service information website, or the service info for the Sorento as well. On the 2.4, you have it on the multi-port, and the 3.5 on the multi-port injection. Clicking on this would expand the service information for each engine code or engine application. Your shop manual. So again, this is going to be like your R&R information, your description and operation, things of that sort, your ETM, the DTCs, and the body manual as well. So one thing that's important to note here is for both Hyundai and Kia, on a brand new vehicle, they offer a 5-year, 60,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty. So this is going to cover everything like your lights, your radio, majority of all your electronics, your seats, things of that sort, and a 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain. So your engine, transmission, axles, things like that. Second year owner, you lose the 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain. You just get the 5-year 60. However, on a certified pre-owned vehicle that is purchased from either a Hyundai dealer or a Kia dealer, you will get the honored factory warranty. So that as if it was sold as new. And it will basically take implementation of from when the first person who purchased the vehicle, that would be the warranty start date. So this is also just outlining again that TSBs are known issues published by the manufacturer. TSBs are only covered if the part is still under warranty. Some TSBs offer some form of a warranty extension, and we'll go into that here in the next slide. So this is on your TSB search screen. TSBs for Hyundais are categorized a little differently. If you see here on the left, there'll be like number, it will be number, and then group EM, engine mechanical, and then the rendition would be 005H. So if there was a supersession to this TSB, it would be 006. Make sure when you're referencing TSBs, you are using the most recent version of the bulletin, because parts do change, labor times do change, diagnostic processes do change. So just make sure that you're using the latest version of the TSB when you're searching for TSBs. On campaigns, which is going to be your recalls, they are grouped kind of similarly. But if you go into campaign bulletins, this is going to pull up all of your campaigns for a Hyundai Kona 2022 model year. This is another good example of looking at making sure that you're looking at the latest version of a campaign. This campaign looks like it's been superseded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, it looks like. And if you click on the wrong one, it will tell you, hey, this has been replaced by 24-01-009H. So be sure that you're following that when you're looking for information. Sometimes the documentation on these older, outdated ones will load. Most of the time they will not, and they will tell you that it has been replaced by superseded number blank. For warranty extension related TSBs, a lot of that information can be found in the actual document. I've outlined here where on these 3 engines with the 3 Kia vehicles with the 3.3 liter motor, you can see where there's a technical service bulletin with a known issue for high pressure fuel pump replacement. And that replacement of that fuel pump has been extended to 15 years or 180,000 miles. So this is really good. So you get a car that comes in and you have that P0088 fault, fuel rail pressure too high, and you see this TSB. This is something that you can present your customer, and if the vehicle still falls within the warranty extension guidelines, this would be a free repair to the customer. And if this is something you present to them, that the dealer will take care of it, I can guarantee you that that would be a repeat customer, good for customer retention, because you've saved that customer quite a bit of time and, more importantly, a lot of money. This would be a snippet here of the service information for Kia vehicles. When you click on here for your campaigns, they're grouped by a little differently. So you have physical group numbers for your campaigns versus on your Hyundais, they're all categorized as in one bracket. Here, your campaigns are going to be electable under engine electrical, fuel system, steering system, restraints, body interior, body electrical, things like that. So when you get to the ETM tab is going to be your electronic troubleshooting manual. This is an example of the Hyundai wiring diagrams. Kia uses the exact same diagrams, so their diagrams are very, very good, and the user interface on them is pretty good because you can click on a lot of these hyperlinks, and I'll go over that here shortly. But these are essentially interactive diagrams. So, for example, here at this EMS block, this is a fuse block that provides this fuse here. We have this blue wire that comes out that goes into this EC11 connector, and then from there it splits into a two separate wires, one going to feed the heater circuit for the upstream oxygen sensor, and the other one going to feed the heater circuit for the downstream oxygen sensor. Here, if you click on that EC11 hyperlink, it will bring up this next slide where it shows you the female side of the connector here and the male side of the connector. More importantly, it tells you where the connector in the car is. So this information can save you tons of time, where if you're looking for um, information on, hey, I know I'm looking for battery voltage at this oxygen sensor. Let me check that right quick. Go to the O2 sensor, pull that wire key on, and you have no voltage at the pink wire. Then next thing you may want to check is the fuse. If the fuse is good, then your issue is going to lie between between the fuse and the C108 connector for the oxygen sensor. If you click on here for the harness, this will give you the routing for this segment of the harness in the vehicle. This can also be really good for instances where you inherit an incomplete repair from a previous shop, or you have rodent damage or something like that, or an accident where there's a segment of the harness that's missing, and you don't know where or how it gets routed to and through the car. This is definitely very, very, very informative for that. I've outlined here where EC11 is, which is going to be that same connector we were just looking at here. This one with the big swing lock and the fuse box. The CAN information for the diagrams for these cars can be found under data link details. These are also really good diagrams in comparison to many other manufacturers, because right out of the jump, they tell you, for example, like on this CAN diagram, we can look and see specifically which two are terminating load resistors on this circuit. It'll be our PCM and the cluster. And this is just an overview of the harness routing through the chassis, and where it shows you have various different harness connections and then various different joint connectors. And in the next slide, you'll see where it shows a little bit more detailed information on the wiring here. So this second slide is essentially the exact same thing as the first slide. However, it does bring up the interactive portion of the diagrams, where you have your data link connector, your various modules that are on your CCAN. It tells you which on your junctions for where the harnesses meet, which is the male side, which is the female side. They're categorized by two different colors of gray. The other thing too, again, here on your you can click on these hyperlinks and it will again tell you where they are in the car and bring you back to that detailed information of where to find specifically this connector and the pins on the connector and where this connector lies in the vehicle. This is just another example here of finding one of the joint connectors from the previous harness, JM01. If you were to click on that one, it would tell you that, hey, JM01 is strapped to the dash support here, wrapped in the tape. It is a 30-pin connector, and this is what the face of the connector looks like. Here's also another legend for what each pin is and what you should have, what value for the most part you should have on each pin. So knowing this information will save you a lot of time when you're diagnosing electrical issues on these cars. On the data link connector on Hyundai and Kia vehicles, one thing that I did want to touch on this webinar is if you look here, this is an overview of the DLC connector. You see where you have OBD, and then you have pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the top, and then the ETM pin numbering. It's actually backwards, so it's inverted. So, for example, on most of our vehicles that do not run a central CAN gateway, most of your CAN checking is going to be on pin 6 and 14. If you were looking at that or looking at the face of this connector, that would mislead you to this section over here, where they're not going to get you much of anything. You can lead to misdiagnosis. So when you're looking at a Hyundai diagram, it would be pins 3 and 11 versus on a OBD generic diagram, you're going to be your regular pins 6 and 14. This is a breakdown here of the DTC chart and how we can find a little bit of testing information for certain components under the DTC chart here. So this vehicle had a P0461, which is for the fuel level sensor circuit A range performance. On this chassis vehicle, the fuel level sensors are a known issue. It tells you here where your component location is, your general description, DTC information, specifications for testing these things, and it even gives you a link to the wiring diagram. So if you were to click on that ETM, it brings up the page with the schematic for the engine control system on this, which houses the diagram for the fuel level sensor on this vehicle. This would be your DTC information, your general description, and your DTC detecting along with your test specs for the fuel level sensor for this. So this is essentially a snippet of you electing any of these options. It would bring up this segment of windows here where you can expand and minimize and expand. It talks about a little bit of description and operation, and it also gives you the specs for the fuel float resistance, and depending at what level you have the fuel flow or the fuel level set to. So variant coding and J2534 softwares. This has been a popular request here. Couple things to note before we kind of dive into this. The J2534 software, there are two different softwares. There's the reprogramming software, which is strictly used for engine and transmission programming. It will not do like blind spot module software updates, ADAS updates. Those are still things that do require a dealer tool at this time. The J2534 diagnostic software is essentially their version of a scan tool supplied to us, the independent user. Before doing any updates using the J2534 programming software, be sure to have a TSB. When you open up this software, it's going to run a check or a ROM ID check, which is basically a calibration configuration data check, and it will often pull up calibration data that it finds in its server, and it says, hey, this calibration data is applicable to this car. Do not press go on any of that information without you knowing for sure that that ROM ID is applicable to your car and that this update is applicable to your car. In some instances where that has been misused, you can accidentally put the wrong software in a module and it thus inadvertently corrupt the module. Another thing to note here that the J2534 software does not do any online variant coding. So we'll get into that a little bit later, a little bit further down these slides, but majority of the coding you're going to be doing with Hyundais and Kias, and if the coding is either on the website, on the service website, if it's not there, you have to get the coding out of the module before replacing the module. So we see a C1702 variant coding error. This is something that I see regularly, guys. So they put a front camera in this car, and they requested us to code this thing. Thankfully for this particular one, we were able to get the coding off of the service website, and then utilize the J2534 software to input the coding to get this thing back on the road for this customer. Hyundai's variant coding is a lit to find it in the website is going to be under that vehicle info tab. So when you click on that vehicle info tab that's up here, it populates this window here for a VIN number drop, where here you can drop in a VIN number, and this is going to give you all of the variant coding that the service website has for this VIN number. It is not every VIN, all the variant coding that for the car itself. There is various other coding that is missing here. For example, like certain other modules for like a BCM and that kind of stuff. If you notice, the only variant coding is the airbag control unit, which is the ACU, the HECU, which is the ABS module, or the cluster. Most coding, except on some later versions here, is going to be a series of 4 to 8 digits of numbers and letters. So just keep that in mind. That's what this is, the actual coding file for. Say if we were going to put an airbag control unit in this VIN numbered vehicle, this would be the coding for that. Variant coding for Kia, to find that on the service website, there is actually a tab that flat out says variant coding. Their coding is set up, the coding that they offer is a little different. You have to know the chassis year and the chassis model you're working on. And then from there, it would pull up the same information where it pulls up the screen, what options for coding that is there. See, yeah, so this is going to be like airbag coding, and you look at your airbag control unit part number. Based off of the part number will give you a series of variant codings, and then these are your options for airbags that are in that. So again, if you're trying to code a module, get the coding out of the module, or screenshot the coding before replacing it, because there are times where the specific coding you are looking for is not listed in the service information. So in the event that you have a module that did not communicate before, or you forgot to get the coding, you have to either try and retrieve the coding from the previous module, see if the coding is either on the service website. And if you cannot get the coding from the service website, or that module did not communicate and you cannot get into it to retrieve the coding, Your only option to correctly variant code that vehicle would be at this time sending it to the dealer to have a GDS or KDS online coding session ran on the vehicle. So this is just a couple of bullet points here from things that we went over, that you must have the original module coding first saved. And I stress this, like this is something I see regularly. Um, GDS or KDS is the only thing that will do an online variant coding. Um, Most scanners will allow you to go into the module information and see what the coding is. And also, most scanners will allow you to manually code these modules. The good thing with Hyundai and Kia is if you wanted to just guess, or if you accidentally input the wrong coding, you can redo the coding on these modules as many times as you want. They are not a one-time burn. So keep that is definitely good to keep in mind there. So this is a snippet here of utilization of the J2534 diagnostic tool. As you can see here, this was a HECU that we put in a vehicle that we got the coding off of the website. So we looked at what the part number of the module was, and then from there, it gave us either two options for coding, depending on whether the vehicle was equipped with the following options. And again, if you input the wrong information here, it's okay. You can go back in and try it again. So the worst thing that would happen is if the module is coded incorrectly, you'll get weird CAN codes for hey, can't they can't see, they can't see the smart cruise control module, for example, if you coded it for a vehicle that did not come equipped with smart cruise control. So that's one thing that you can definitely do, is just redo it if you accidentally input it incorrectly. So this is a snippet here of enhanced variant or enhanced module information. So some later model Hyundais and Kias have now kind of moved to electable options for variant coding, which is good, except again, you need to have this stuff recorded before replacing any modules. Going into there, this is something that you can take a photo of before replacing a module, and then come back in and pretty much copy over here what you had, and it should accept the coding from there at that point. This here would be a snippet of the J2534 diagnostic tool. Once you log in with your credentials, you can go here, and this would give you, it'll populate where you can click on any of the control units that are in this car, do your full system scan, and then from there you can go in there to see enhanced module information to be able to go back in and copy the coding, or write down what the coding is, and then replace your module, come back in, and then rewrite that same coding that you copied. The J25, some modules will allow you to back up the coding before replacing it. I would still suggest you take a photo of that with a cell phone, or even write it down, because in the event that the software forgets to copy the coding or copies the coding incorrectly, at that point you're definitely, kind of dead in the water there with the wrong coding. This is a snippet here of the J2534 reprogramming software. It definitely does look a little dated with that old Hyundai Tucson there, but it works. So when you hook up to the vehicle, it will go in and it will tell you checking ROM ID in progress. So it will scan every module in the car and look for what module it has an applicable update for. This process does take like at least usually 15 to 20 minutes. So you need to make sure that you have a battery maintainer on these vehicles, something that can produce a steady, clean voltage, and something that preferably has a flash setting that can regulate the desired amperage and keep the voltage steady at 13.6 volts for these vehicles. From here, it will tell you what the possible IDs that it has that you can update. So this has an update for the airbag, an update for the cluster, and an update for the engine control module. And it was telling you that the new ID would be as follows. So this information here is crucial because when I mentioned earlier that you need your TSB with the listing for your ROM IDs, this would be that TSB. So it would tell you here where your bulletin, where your vehicle, if this was a SULEV vehicle with immobilizer, your ECM part number is going to be one of the two. But what's more important is to make sure that here your software number that you have, which is ultimately is the ROM ID, the ID that is presented here on this previous screen matches to what it shows you what it should be here. If it does not match, do not proceed with the update because it can corrupt the control module by accidentally inputting the incorrect information in the control module. Once you start, you click start. This process again does take usually 25 to 30 minutes. So it will tell you reprogramming is in process, and it will just sit here and flash this screen for a very long time until it changes over to this screen here, where it tells you that your new ROM ID has been updated. It will at that point ask you to cycle off the key and then cycle on the key, and everything should be golden and it should start up fine without any issues. So that completes our webinar. Um, again, if you were looking for more information regarding our services, our technical support services, the Drive Pro 2, or even how to register for the following webinar, which again is taking place on November 18th for the Toyota diagnostics with ADAS and ROB, go ahead and scan this QR code and it will take you to our website where you can learn more. Thank you guys.